Hi, I'm Steve from Kent Veg Box, and I thought I would just do this video to take you through what's in the veg box this week. It's a new thing for us, but we do plan to do this every week and take you through the different types of veg we do and give you some ideas about how to cook them. Not recipes, more about how to get the best out of the veg that you get delivered to your door. We'll start with the staple, which is carrots. So, carrots, as you can imagine, are a fairly regular appearer in our veg boxes. These all come from East Kent, and you know, I wish you had smell-o-vision now, because I can smell these just sat here like this. A couple of things to note with the carrots. Tops are on. As we get later in the season and into winter, then and these grow big carrots, then obviously they'll come tops off. But at the moment they're tops on. And one of the good things about that is you can see how fresh they are. So you can see that the leaf's green. It's still fairly, the thin leaf is still fairly strong, and there's no discoloration at all there, which just shows, you know, how fresh they are. And these were picked, and for your boxes are picked on a Tuesday. So Tuesday morning, these are still growing in the ground. And then they're picked up. The other sign you can tell how fresh they are, and is if I pick a smaller carrot here, you know, this one here is quite tiny, and there's hardly any bend in it at all. Okay, hardly any bend at all, so it's nice and fresh, you know, and I can put quite a lot of pressure on that, and you get that snap, okay, and that just tells you how fresh that carrot is. The last thing to note is somewhere, there's an odd occasion here, get a little bit of discoloration, so you've got a little bit of insect damage there, you know, and something in the ground has decided, and why wouldn't you, that it's you know, something it wants to eat. It just shows that there's no insecticide, no pesticide used on these carrots. You know, the soil is living, and sometimes it takes its living into our produce. Cut it out, and the rest of the carrot is perfectly usable, so just cut the discoloration out. Obviously you don't want too much, and we do try and keep an eye on it and make sure there's not too much in there, but we'd rather take the odd little bit of damage over basically a carrot full of chemicals. In terms of using them, you know, I this time of year when they're quite small, I tend to just quickly stir fry them, even steam them, and sometimes just roast them whole as well. When we get later in the season, and if you like, you do get, with our seasonal food, you get two sort of different products with these carrots. You get these early young ones that are quite small, and then when we get down to December, around Christmas into January, you get the big monster carrots that are really big and hard and good. You really need to casserole those to get the best out of them. So you know, you get different products with us, and that's what seasonality means. Okay, carrots, basic, really good stuff. Squashes. Oh, I've got some others here somewhere. Here we go. That's the other one. There he is. No, there he is. We get all sorts of different squashes during the year. Butternut is obviously the staple one. We do some butternut, but not a lot. And that's what you'll get in the supermarkets generally. But there are many different squashes out there, and you will see a lot of them during the year. These are two varieties. This is called a sunspot. Quite heavy, as you can see, and typically with a squash or like a pumpkin, as they're all related, you can cut the top off, scrape the seeds out, take all the flesh off the seeds and dry roast them. They're a really good little nutty snack, so don't throw the seeds away. What I do with this one is I tend to cut the top off, take the seeds out, and then I'll make a filling out of minced beef, tomato, some of the other veg, put that in, bit of cheese, put that in and roast that in the oven. And you've got a nice contained meal in there. The flavours seep out into the flesh, and of course you can eat the pot afterwards. So you don't even have any washing up. In terms of the skin, it's a little bit tough. I mean, I eat it, to be honest with you. Some do, some don't. Won't do you any harm. But you know, you can literally eat the whole thing. These are called little gems or rolle, and these are these are quite orange, the flesh, as you would imagine, with the colour of the skin. These are a little bit yellower, the flesh on these. It's a little bit more stringy, but you know, not outrageously so. and they're again a really nice veg. Quite popular with South Africans. I have a South African friend who I always give some of these to every year, and he regards them as sort of being like back home, I guess. Cooking them, very similar to this one. I cut them into quarters, take the seeds out and roast them. Just a bit of oil, bit of salt, bit of pepper on them, and just roast them in the oven. I have seen, what I would say is if you roast them whole, which you can do with all of these, and you roast them whole, prick the skin like you would a potato, because they do explode. And Becca, who is my partner on this, had exploding hot gem squash all over her kitchen, so don't repeat the mistake. Just pierce the skin. Another recipe I've seen of doing these actually is to slice them into thin slices, ½ inch or something, grill one side, turn it over, salt, pepper, cheese, rarebit, that sort of thing, put them back under the grill and treat them as bread, and have some cheese on squash rather than sweet cheese on toast. So if you're trying to get rid of your carbohydrates, excellent way to replace the bread. Note that the skin is quite thin, but it really is quite tough, so you probably want to try and avoid that. It won't do you any harm if you don't. It's all roughage. So looking at these as well, in terms of freshness, just watch the discoloration. If they get mould, it tends to come around the point here, and likewise on these it tends to come up around the stalk. But you can see that they're still all green, orange, and they're obviously just come out of the fields, so nice and fresh. I'm going to go on to broccoli now. Everybody, we know it's Calabrese, everybody calls it broccoli. I'm not really sure why there's a difference, but there's a couple of names for it. A brassica, great food. We didn't really do much of these in the past, but we've got a new supplier this year, and we've got much more available, so which is really good stuff. Freshness is quite easy with these. These will start to go yellow quite quickly and quite easily. If it's not been fresh, keep it in the fridge. Also, you can tell by the stalk. I mean, if you look on the underside, you should have a nice clean cut. It should be white, yellowy in appearance. If it's grey, then it was cut some time ago. Also, again, this stalk quite stiff. The heads of the flowers quite stiff there, and you can tell that it's nice and fresh, and it's not floppy at all. I always steam these. I read a report that said that you can lose up to half your nutrient value of these foods if you boil them in water. It just sucks all the nutrients out. So I'd recommend steaming them. I do chop them up and use them in stir fries as well. But for me, steamed, and with a lot of this green veg, steamed, a little bit of cheese maybe, and also Worcester sauce. Worcester sauce just adds a great flavour, I think, to broccoli or Calabrese. Okay, next one out this week, runner beans. Runner beans are not my favourite veg, I've got to be honest with you. But perhaps that's because how I've had them in the past is steamed or boiled, chopped into bits, steamed or boiled with a bit of butter, and you usually get a little bit of stringy bit on the side. And I don't think they're the most flavoursome veg, to be honest with you. However, I find that they're a great addition to stews and casseroles. Cut them up, don't bother de-stringing them, cut them up, put them in a stew or casserole. They're quite a hard veg, they tend to retain their shape and a bit of colour, and they'll cook through quite nicely in a casserole, and that's how I tend to use them. In terms of freshness, again, have a look. You can see here that, I don't know if you can quite see, but the stalks are green. They're not floppy at all, and the bean itself again is quite stiff, and that's always a good sign. And you can quite tell quite quickly if they go off. I'd keep them in the fridge, I think, just to make sure that they keep that freshness. So runner beans, chopped, put into stews and casseroles, fantastic. Courgettes. We're coming to the end of the season for courgettes, and you know, they're again a veg that appears quite a lot. If they've got quite a tail to them early in the season, we've got some growers who grow them indoors in greenhouses, and they're very expensive, and everybody wants them. And then come the summer season, when they're in full bloom outdoors, they are just a glut. They're so easy to grow, and you get so many of them. If you don't careful, you can get sort of marrow-sized courgettes. But these are obviously being picked nice and small, and are quite easy to use. I use them in stir fries and quick dishes. They don't need a lot of cooking. They're great at absorbing flavours. So again, if you've got some sort of flavouring or sauce or gravy or whatever you're going with, if you cook them in that, they will take all that up. In terms of freshness, look at the stalk. You know, you can see again, similar to the broccoli, it's green, it's white. They're nice and stiff. They're not flopping around all over the place. That's always a good sign. Again, as with all this veg, it's no more than a day or two old when it gets to you. You can, with some of these veg, do other things with them. There are recipes on our website, on our Pinterest board, for using them in cakes, using them in even things like ice creams and other things like that. You know, have a look around and see how you can use them. But they are a great addition. If you're going to add them to stews or things like that, add them in about 10-15 minutes to go. If you add them in from the start, if you're doing sort of a big beef casserole or something, then you're going to find that they'll go away to nothing. They'll cook away to nothing. But if you put them in at the last minute, they'll cook, but they'll still retain their shape and a little bit of flavour. Right, now we come to the various leaf veg that we get. We use a lot of leaf veg in our boxes, and it really is a fantastic food. But you do need to keep it right, and you do need to use it the right way. The first one out is black kale. This is new this week actually. Cavolo Nero if you're Italian. Black kale for us northern tribes of the empire. With leaf veg, and particularly this, I use them in stir fries, and I use them in, if I'm going to use them in stews or casseroles, I'll chop them up and I add them in the last sort of 10 minutes, 5-10 minutes of cooking. They don't need a lot of cooking. The stalks can be a little bit tougher, so take the stalks off. But they add a great flavour and a great taste and look and texture to your stews or casserole. Okay, Fergus. Fergus likes black kale, don't you, Fergus? Put them into the fridge when you get them. This one has been out of the fridge for a bit, so it's just starting to go, and you can see that it's just starting to go. But if we come to the inner leaves, you can see there that they've kept their chill, if you like, from our chillers, and they're nice and fresh. So again, just cut them back and add them to your stir fries, all last minute. Don't overdo it with those. The other things that you're likely to get are big bags of leaf veg. In this one it's red chard, and I firstly apologise for the polythene bag. It's not ideal, however, if we didn't put them tied up into a polythene bag, they would wilt in no time. So when you do get them from us in this bag, put this straight in the fridge, and they will closed, and they will stay nice and chilled and nice and fresh in there. But if you take them out and leave them for any time, even in the fridge like that, they'll suck all the moisture out, and they will not be as good as they can be. This is red chard, not unreasonably when you see the stalks. Similar to the kale, I like to use these in stir fries and quick cooks. You know, there is no need to do too much cooking for these at all. In fact, pretty much any meal I'm cooking, you know, add in at the last minute a handful of chopped kale or chard or spinach that we'll come on to. Just makes a great addition to any of the foods you're cooking. I would say with this one though, with chard particularly, the stalks can be a little bit tough. They're not as bad as kale. I'd lose the stalks on the kale. This one, just cut the stalks off and do those first, and then do the leaf after. If you are going to cook them on their own and you want to do them as a sort of, you know, a creamed, like a cream spinach or a cream chard or whatever, just cook the stalks first for about 4 or 5 minutes. I would only ever steam them, by the way, on their own. 4 or 5 minutes of those first, because they're a little bit tougher, and then put the leaf in to finish off for another couple of minutes. If you cook them like this until the stalks are cooked, you'll have no leaf, and if you cook it till the leaf is cooked, then the stalks will still be quite tough. Cook them first, and then do the leaf after that. We get different coloured chards during the year, and it's all the same principle. Very distinct flavour, but as I say, for me, just throwing them into a meal at the last minute, chopped up, whatever I'm cooking, from curry to scrambled eggs, makes a big difference. The final bag that we have is spinach. Again, and this is probably the most delicate of the leaf veg that we get. With all these leaf veg, just have a quick flick through. You'll need to do 2 things. You'll need to wash it, and that's just to get the dirt off. You'll probably also need to wash off or pick off any little travellers that there are in there. As I say, the farms don't use insecticides and pesticides generally, so you will find the odd little bit of animal in there occasionally sometimes. So you will need to pick them out. The other thing you might find is the odd weed as well. Again, we don't use herbicides, so any old weed in there you'll need to just pick out. Like the chard and the kale, I only ever steam leaf veg. I don't do anything else with it unless I'm going to add it to a dish, and if I add it to a dish, it goes in chopped with 4 or 5 minutes to go. The stalks are not as tough as these two, so you can do it all at the same time. If you want to put them in a minute and a half before, then you can, but the stalks soften up quite quickly as well, and gives you some really added colour and flavour to any meal. Okay, that's all our veg today. Obviously we've got things like potatoes and onions in the boxes, and we'll come on to them another time, but I just wanted to give you an idea of some of the things available that we get in a box week in, week out. And just bear in mind, you can see the freshness of all this stuff that I've put out today. You know, it is all the cuts and the stiffness tells you how fresh it is. And just remember, it all comes from Kent Farms. It's all cropped on a Tuesday, delivered to you by Friday. Try and keep as much of your veg in the fridge as you can to keep it fresh, and I would recommend, certainly with all the leafier veggies, put them in a sealed bag and just keep all the freshness in. The squashes really don't need to be chilled. They're probably the only ones out of this lot that I wouldn't bother chilling, possibly the carrots. If you are looking for recipe ideas, then go to our website. We've got a Pinterest board. There's a link on the website where you can go on, and we've got loads of different recipes for all the different types of veg we do. And there is one Pinterest board that has recipes that are specific for the veg in the boxes at the current time. So you can click on those and get some really good ideas. We try and come up with all sorts of different ideas for recipes. We've got squash ice cream, courgette cake, spinach pesto. In fact, using these leaf veg as pestos instead of basil is a really good idea. So all of those you'll find on the website. I hope you enjoyed that. Please email me in any questions or any comments you might have, and I look forward to seeing you next week when we go through the veg in the box next week. Thanks a lot.